Marina Pearl Boelter was an 18-year-old from Bloomfield, Indiana. She found her way through some rough times and had recently gotten her own place to live. On New Year's Eve 2014, Marina got off work and hitched a ride home with a customer. From there, she was supposed to go to a New Year's Eve party. Marina never showed up. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Densel, and this is Unfound. How many of you out there have the mobile app Waze? W-A-Z-E. I think it's the best GPS app out there, although my sister still insists it's Google. I think I've had Waze for probably 3 years, 4 years, and I'm a total slave to it. It tells me to turn left, I do it. Tells me to go right, I turn that way as well. Go down some back alley that will cut 10 seconds from a trip somewhere. I do whatever Waze tells me. I just really don't like being out on the streets that much anymore. I don't like taking the long way home, or to Starbucks, or to trivia night. A perfect indication of this, I've only put 5,000 miles on my car since I got it last summer, and that includes a 2,600-mile round trip to Pennsylvania and back. For Marina Boelter, she didn't own a car, but she had recently gotten her own place, the first step toward getting her life back together after a rough 2014. Without a vehicle, though, she still didn't want to take the long way home either that New Year's Eve. Didn't want to call her mother to pick her up. Didn't want to ask her ex-boyfriend, well, for obvious reasons. Instead, she took the quickest route by asking a customer to drive her the mile back to her apartment. But she never made it. Or did she? And now a summary of the case. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Marina had issues with the father of her child, her sister, and a longtime friend of her family who was in a relationship with her. Yet she got a job, her own place, and was working toward getting back full custody of her son. For New Year's Eve 2014, she had plans to go to a party held by that longtime friend of the family, a married man many years older than Marina, who had a relationship with her behind his wife's back. Marina got off work that evening. Being without a car, a generous customer at the IGA where Marina worked offered to drive her back to her apartment. Although it did appear Marina made it into her apartment that evening, she was never seen again. The man who drove Marina home remained unknown for a while after her disappearance, but he eventually came forward to say he dropped her off down the street from her home. This man remains a person of interest, but there is currently no evidence connecting him to Marina's disappearance. Coincidentally, the same evening that Marina got the ride home, one of the last people to see Marina was her ex-boyfriend, DJ. He and his friends were in the parking lot and saw her get into the car with the man. Tragically, and possibly suspiciously, 6 weeks after Marina disappeared, DJ was stabbed to death during a confrontation. The eventual ruling was self-defense. Complicating the investigation into Marina's disappearance, there was a murderer and registered sex offender who had been in jail for over 30 years, living in the same building as Marina. She was also involved with a married man whose party she was supposed to attend that night. Marina's family believes foul play is involved because she would have never left her son willingly. The case remains unsolved. The interview for this episode is with Marina's mother, Tressie Palmer. Unfound News. Did you catch this past January 28th edition of the Tribune Review, whether online at triblive.com or the actual printed version available in the Pittsburgh area? It contained the disappearance of Amy Pugner, the first story that's a collaboration between the Trib and Unfound. Stephen Humid did a fantastic job on the story, and I'm already looking forward to working with him on February's missing person story from the western Pennsylvania area. Next, if you haven't seen it yet, Unfound has a new shirt out. On the front, the Unfound logo. On the back, A collage of the pictures of the victims the program has featured in the first year. Yes, the whole way from Suzanne Lyle up to and including Jennifer Wilkerson. This will be the flagship piece of merchandise from Unfound. Not only is there nothing like it in podcast attire, it helps spread the word on all of these missing people. I need to thank a listener, Stephanie, who gave me the idea. And yes, if you'd like to spread the word on a case in particular, there are shirts for every specific case up to and including the very last case Unfound covered. Please help spread the word. Finally, Volume 2 is done. Finally. Yes, really. Look for it on Amazon in both print and ebook editions. Right now. Where you can find Unfound. Unfound is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, Stitcher, Podbean, and Spotify. The email address, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. The website, unfoundpodcast.com. Please check out the Secret Stephen Kocher episode. The website at Trib Total Media, triblive.com/news/unfound. Unfound has Patreon and PayPal accounts. Thank you to the most recent contributors, Paula and Christina. Unfound merchandise, Volume 1 and now 2 is on Amazon in both paperback and ebook form. The playing cards, go to makeplayingcards.com/sell/Unfound podcast. The aforementioned shirts at unfound-podcast.myshopify.com. And please mention Unfound on all true crime Facebook pages and other websites and forums. Thank you. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the mother of Marina Boelter, Tressie Palmer. Tressie, welcome to Unfound.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me a chance to spread the word about my daughter.
You're welcome, Tressie. We're going to start with this question, and you told me that there's a pretty good story behind it. How did you name your daughter Marina?
Okay, Marina's name was supposed to be Ariel because I have a thing for mermaids. Well, her father, John Boelter, he's from California. So I actually have a daughter before Marina, and we lived out in California whenever my first child was born. So after that, we came back here. So I still wanted to name my daughter after a mermaid, so we picked Ariel. And Johnny said that there was no way we were naming our daughter after a fish. So I was sitting there one day just, brewing over it. And this little cartoon came on, and it was a Little Mermaid cartoon, and the mermaid's name was Marina. And so I sat there thinking about it being all sneaky, and I convinced Johnny that naming Marina Pearl being after my middle name, was going by like a California theme. So he was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And after he signed the birth certificate, I got to tell him, we named our daughter after a fish.
That is funny. Marina.
I told you it was funny.
That's a good story. And you know what? Although most people know the word Marina, but the name Marina, I think, is very, very unique. Very unique.
And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, with your name, Tressie, that's a unique name, too.
Yeah, see, our whole family has unique names.
Mm-hmm.
And I was named after my great-grandma. So my great-grandma, one of them was Tressie, and the other one was Pearl. So we named Marina, so it'd be unique like that, but yet her middle name being Pearl would be naming after me and after my great-grandma.
Yeah, keeping it all in the family.
Yeah, I've pretty much done good with my kids' names.
Yeah, I like it. So she had an older sister. Does Marina have any other siblings, any other brothers and sisters?
Yeah, actually, I have 6 kids altogether.
Wow, okay.
And then her dad has 3 sons besides Faith and Marina. Faith is her oldest sister from me.
Okay, so big family.
Yes.
Big family. Okay, interesting. So what was Marina into when, as a little girl, becoming a teenager? What were some of her interests and hobbies? What'd she like to do? What'd you like to do with her?
She likes to write poetry, and she always liked to write down stories and stuff. So even before she could write, she was having me write down stuff for her. And she's always kept a journal. Like her whole life, she's kept a journal from the beginning when she could first start writing.
Mhm. Yes,
She
and that's
liked
going to play a role in her disappearance when we get to that. But she liked to write.
yes, she did. And she's all about poems.
All about poems and rhyming and creative writing.
Yes. And she liked to do, like, I don't know, she just doodled all the time. She was always doodling. She said she couldn't draw very well, but she liked to doodle on them. So I know one thing about my daughter from having her journals is that out of everybody until she had her own son, the person that she loved the most in the world was me. So that's made me feel really special throughout all this.
And you know that from reading what she used to write over the years.
Yeah, and like different stories about how much she loves me. She even wrote it was a second grade class project where they got to write their own book, and it was a hardback book, and she wrote it about how much she loves her mommy and stuff. And then when she's on the phone, she like scribbles down just doodles. I love my mom. She always writes, I love my mama, and
It's very
so
special.
in
That's
all
nice.
these notebooks I share, yeah, it does make me feel special because that's why I keep fighting. I want her, no matter where she is, I want her to know that I'm going to keep fighting for as long as I possibly can. And I find these little doodles that she does or whatever. Do you want to hear one of her little poems? It's a funny poem though. It's not like a serious one. She was just a doodle. But I can read it to you if you want me to.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it.
It says, I love my mama by Marina Boelter. It says, Mommy, I love you even if you like to poo. You're my hero because my dad is a zero. I missed you all these years. I'm glad I'm finally here. It says, you make me want to be good. It helps that you don't live in the hood. Well, I can't think of anything else to say, so I bid you a good day.
That's funny. So she thought a lot of you, not so much a lot of her dad. I guess we can get
right.
I guess we can get out of that. And maybe we should leave that out of the discussion. Well, that she wrote that in second grade.
I'm not sure how old she was when she wrote that. That was just a little doodle in one of her notebooks. She's like me. We have like 10 different notebooks. You know, you go in to get a notebook and you see some on sale. It's like, oh, I can get one in every color. Well, her favorite color was purple. So she was always buying that purple stuff. So I have probably 10 different notebooks for different things that she's wrote and stuff. Plus then I have that book that she wrote.
Okay. So she liked to write. Did she write well in school? I mean, how did she do in school overall?
Honestly, she was in honors. She was in honors when she was in Ohio living with her dad. And she came here. We lived in Linton when she first came here. And she did good in Linton, but she didn't do very good in the Bloomfield school, which is where I live right now. So what she did was she dropped out and got her GED right away. She didn't wait around to get her GED. She did it right away. And then before she came up missing, she'd put in applications for schools. She wanted to go to college and be a pastry chef. So for her working at the deli, she had told me once, because a lot of people were like, well, that's just a little, minimal job. And she was like, no, she wants to be a pastry chef. So working in the deli, she said, was her getting on the bottom ring of the ladder
and working her way up. And working her way up.
Yep, climbing her way up.
That's admirable.
So
she got her GED, and she was working. But at 18 years old, she also had a child. What can you tell the listeners about that?
Well, she had him when she was 17, so she was really nervous and everything. And she turned a year old, right? April 27th, he turned a year old after her disappearance. So she had him young, but she was a good mom. Mm-hmm. She loved him. I told her that when we have kids, they trump the other one. So since she had a kid, he trumped her. Because if Christ comes first, then kids come next. And then we say as a joke, dogs come next because people stink.
Okay. And what was the child's name?
Landon.
Landon. Okay, so she had a son, and she had him in what year did she have him? When's his birthday?
April 27th, and 2014. So it'd be like 2013. I'm bad with dates.
Okay.
2013 sound about right. If he'd have been a year, April of April 27th, 2015, he turned a year old. So it would have been 2014 then.
Okay, so
In
he was
April when
only
she was
like
born,
eight.
2014.
So he was only like 8 months old when she disappeared, something like that. Not long.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And who was the father?
His name was DJ Lockhart.
Oh, okay. And his name is going to come up here in a bit as well. So they had a child
Yeah.
together, and when Landon was born in April 2014, and he would have been about 8 months old when Marina disappeared. But I'm guessing, was it tough for her? Obviously, she had support for you, but it was a tough being a mother, and I know she and DJ had kind of a on and off relationship. How'd she do it? How'd she do it?
Well, my dad took in part in that. She lived here for a while, and we just all kind of helped out. Well, Landon she accidentally got hit whenever he was 4.5 months old, not through Marina. My oldest daughter, Faith, had guardianship for just a minute. Marina trusted Faith to have him so she could go and get a job and then get an apartment so she could have Landon back or leave him with her. And she got hit at 4.5 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So everything came up back to back. She got hit, then my dad fell. So Landon's brain was bleeding, and then my dad fell 2 or 3 days later. His brain was bleeding.
Wow.
And then Marina worked to get him out of CPS because, of course, they took him from Faith.
Okay.
So Marina was supposed to get Landon back 48 hours before she came up missing.
Oh, my. So a lot was going on in 2014, a lot of tough things in 2004.
Yeah.
It was a tough year, obviously. So what was she doing, leading up to her disappearance? I guess she had just started living on her own. How did you feel about that? Where was she living? Did you go over to see her a lot? Did you see her a lot? What was going on before her disappearance?
Honestly, she'd only had her apartment for 2 or 3 weeks. And New Year's Eve is a big holiday for us. On New Year's Day is for our family. We eat lots of cabbage and get all together for a big dinner. Mm. And I hadn't got to see her apartment yet. In fact, I haven't ever stepped foot in her apartment. Mm. It's been spooky since they wouldn't let me see her right at the beginning. Me and her were supposed to hang out for New Year's Eve, but the guy she was seeing wanted her to come to his party, and he was married, so me and Marina were both kind of curious about how he expected to kiss them both at midnight. So Marina talked me into picking her up from her apartment on New Year's Day, but that never got to happen.
No. Now, at some point before she disappeared, she and DJ, I guess, had kind of split up, broken up. You don't exactly have to say why, but how long had they been broken up? And was there any tension between the two? What was going on there?
Well, there was some tension there. They were apart for a few months where it was off and on, and then Marina was kind of done. But she told me personally that I always tell my kids I got predictions, not assumptions. And I say my prediction, and if it happens, I giggle about it. Well, she wrote down, she don't usually show her journal to anybody, but she had wrote down, because she was seeing a married man, and I wasn't happy about it. Mm-hmm. And so she wrote down in her journal that she truly loved DJ. And she said, Mom, I know you're going to be, I'm writing this for you. So you'll see that whenever you have that talk with me, that I already predicted it, Mom, like you. And she said that she knew I would be upset about her seeing a married man, but Toby was to help her get back her son quicker, and that was putting Landon first.
Yeah.
So she said if DJ really wanted to be back in her life, then he would jump through the same hoops that she had to jump through CPS. And that would prove that he loved them and wanted to be a family.
Right. And this married guy, you actually personally knew him, and you've known him for years, a couple decades.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact. His name is Toby. He was actually a friend of your family going well back, I guess, to the 90s, if not the 80s, something like that.
Well, put it this way, when Marina was in my stomach, he was dating a friend of mine, and he felt Marina kicks. I let him put his hand on my belly and feel Marina kick. Then she was born on Toby's girlfriend at the time's birthday. So Marina was Toby's girlfriend's birthday baby.
Okay.
So it kind of went against my rules. My rules was I couldn't really say who they dated, but if I don't let too many people touch me. So if I let somebody touch my belly and feel her kick, they didn't get to sleep with her later. So that's why Marina knew I'd be really upset about it. Because
Right.
Toby broke that rule.
Yeah. And so did you, I mean, before she disappeared, did you ever say anything to Toby, being that you knew him? And I mean, you knew that, did you know that he and Marina had a thing kind of going on the side, or what? Did you
Well,
know?
I pretty much knew everything. Marina told me everything. We both have anxiety disorder, and we were so close that the cops even said that, they've never seen a mother and daughter as close as we were. Like when we text, it's like Dad, he texts all the time. So the cops said it too, and through our text messages. Marina and me talked about things that you wouldn't think, a daughter would be telling her mom. She didn't try to lie to me. She was honest. She was always honest with me. And she always came to me with her problems. So she came to me when she knew I knew that, Toby was somebody that broke that rule. So she came to me and let me know ahead of time. So that way I wouldn't find out and get mad right away.
Yeah, better to hear it from her, from hear it from everybody else, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
exactly what she did. I was proud of her for that.
yeah. Now, do you think that Toby's wife knew about all this?
Honestly, I didn't know how she couldn't know about it, but later on I found out for sure she didn't. I'm the one that kind of bursted her bubble and didn't realize it. She's a CNA at my dad's facility, and I didn't realize who she was. I just knew his wife's name. I didn't know who she was. And me and my dad were sitting out smoking at this gazebo they go smoke at, and I'd actually seen Toby. He has not talked to me since this whole thing has happened at all. He won't talk to me. 3 days before, we were like eating at Chinese on one of his lunch breaks, and we were all talking. So to me, it makes me mad he won't talk to me. So like, I was pretty upset with the fact that he wouldn't talk to me. And he's only said one word to me since. He said hi. But I saw him. I was pulling into the facility, and I saw him go into the facility, and he was coming out the door as we were going in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he wasn't there but a minute because we went from the parking lot to the door, and he was coming back out the door. Well, I was upset about it, so I was telling my dad. I said something about seeing Toby and the F bomb, but I was like, Toby Dean. Well, his wife was sitting out there, and she was like, "Can I ask you why you say that?" And then I explained to her the story I told you already about, him breaking the rule. And I said, and I know for a fact he was sleeping with my daughter. I said, so he knows I know they were sleeping together. So the fact that he won't talk to me now makes me really mad. And I said, why did you ask? And she said, well, I'm his wife. And I was like, oh, shit, sorry to tell you that.
Wow. Yeah. Huh. That
She
had
said
to,
that she didn't
and this
know.
was after, and this was of course after Marina disappeared.
Yeah, she didn't know about it. Her face was just like in total shock. She thought they were just helping Marina.
Okay.
He had his wife helping my daughter. While he was sleeping with her on the side.
Okay. Now let's talk, and we're going to come back to that in a bit. But maybe, and once again, it's up to you how much you really want to get into this. But we have talked about this, and this is a complicated relationship that Marina had with her older sister Faith that you've already mentioned. They had a complicated relationship, the both of them.
Yes.
Maybe we could just touch upon that just for a moment.
What part would you like to know? They didn't get along.
Yeah, why? Well, why didn't they get along? Let's just keep it to that. Why didn't they get along?
It's been that way for their whole life. They were close because of the fact that they were sisters, but they didn't. They they fought all the time, constantly. So they were fighting, but yet they hung out together all the time because they were sisters. But yet they were always fighting. Faith was always mean to Marina, and Faith isn't actually Johnny's biologically. So Johnny had made a comment once that he was nicer to Faith because one day she would grow up and she would have a right to say that he wasn't her father. But Marina couldn't say that because he's her father.
Mm-hmm.
So Johnny was he called Marina pork chop as a little kid and called Faith chicken wing. Like Faith
But
would get a beach in
and,
cheerleading, and Marina couldn't be in dance.
and something happened though with Landon regarding Faith. Didn't something happen?
Yes, he got hit. Like I said, when he was 4.5 months old, Faith and her boyfriend were fighting, and somehow Landon accidentally got hit. He got hit in the side of the head, and the opposite side of where he got hit at, on his brain, it was bleeding.
Oh my. And I'm sure that that must have been maybe the final straw between
Oh
Marina
yeah,
and Faith. I mean, they, like
yeah,
you said, they had been maybe, at each other for a little while, but once Faith did something to Marina's son, that had to be the final straw between them.
yes, it was. It was totally the final straw. They did not talk whatsoever, and Marina didn't. She never went, like Faith had hit Marina before, like clunking on her and stuff, but Marina would never hit Faith back. And I'll be the first one to say that I used to always tell her, whoop her ass. Maybe she'll leave you alone. And Marina always said no because she didn't. She wanted her sister to love her, and if she was to hit her, then she would hate her more. So whenever Landon got hurt, Marina was ready to kick her butt.
And what would you say was the status of the relationship between Marina and Faith at the time that Marina disappeared?
It was definitely they had nothing to say to each other. So Faith was actually on the run when after Landon got hit. She fell for cocaine and Suboxone on a drug screen, like the DCS drug screened her, and then she was already on probation. So that was an automatic fail through probation. So Faith went on the run. So Marina was mad because her dad's family members had paid for her to go to different states. You know what I mean? Why? So after Landon got hit, Faith got to go on a road trip. Like, I don't know if she went Greyhound or if she flew or not. I don't know. Me and Faith have never talked about that. I just know that she went to like 2 or 3 different states. And then when Marina came up missing, she was back here, and she was hiding.
So it
Took
was
her
like
a while
she's
to
on the
come out.
run. She was on the run from the law, and some of, not you, but her father's side of the family was helping Faith evade the police, kind of.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we move up to New Year's Eve 2014. And what did Marina do that day? She's living by herself at the time. Of course, like you said, Toby moved her into this place not too far from where he lived. But she went to work that day. And what went on at work, and then what happened afterwards? What do we know?
Okay, well, I know she showed up for work and everything, and because she changed plans on me and didn't want to hang out for New Year's Eve, I had been working in Terre Haute before I come back this way, and I was volunteering at a soup kitchen. So I told her that was fine. She could do what she's going to do, and then I would go ahead and pick her up in the morning to go out, come back out to my dad's house to do dinner. So before I left town to go to Terre Haute, I stopped at her work, wished her a Happy New Year and told her I loved her and everything. And she was real distracted. She didn't seem confused or, mad about anything. She just seemed real distracted. It's like when she hugged me, it was a poor hug. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then I left. I didn't know she came up missing until after they went ahead and called the cops and proclaimed her missing. I didn't know anything about it. Nobody told me until the next day.
Okay, so she was at work, and then she went home, and then that's when she disappeared. Nobody saw her after that. When did you personally know that something was wrong? That she went to work. That maybe she didn't call you after work. Maybe didn't call you the next day. When did you know that maybe something wasn't right?
Honestly, I didn't know until after they said that she was reported missing, because I thought that because of the sneakiness of her, seeing the married man, I thought that's why she wasn't, getting in contact with me, because she was trying not to be on her phone so I wouldn't be asking her questions and stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't know she was missing until the next day. No one told me.
Okay, and how did you
When
find
I
out?
gathered they did.
How did you find
My
out?
dad called me. My dad called me and asked me, because me and Marina are so close, my dad figured if anybody was to talk to her, it would have been me. So when I told him no, that I hadn't heard from her, he said that her boss came out to the house to see if she was here, and she wasn't here, so they went ahead and went in town and reported her missing.
Oh, so she was supposed to work on New Year's Day. She doesn't show up. The boss gets a little concerned, tries to go find her, doesn't see her, and that's how the missing persons report got made? That's how that happened?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I had a girl tell me since then that Toby knew something was happening and had her calling her and calling her. So it made me wonder why they didn't call me and say anything to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what did you do? What did you do when your dad told you that?
Well, I have to say, honestly, whenever Dad told me that, I thought maybe she'd went out and screwed up because she was doing so good. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She had been good because she could get Landon back. So she wasn't smoking or, she wasn't really drinking. So I thought maybe she, got high or got drunk or something, you know what I mean? And I was mad that, she would put us through that.
Sure.
But because usually she's not like that. She would tell me straight up what's going on. So I was upset. It's an hour drive from Terre Haute to here. But I'm thankful now that I was upset instead of scared to death because I probably would have wrecked.
Yeah. You drove over to her apartment, didn't you?
Yes.
And what'd you
There
find?
was no sign, nothing. They wouldn't let me in because there was already the police.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, they reported her missing. Her boss reported her missing. So I still had to drive over an hour away to get back to her. So the cops had already been at her apartment and everything. They wouldn't let anybody in.
Okay. So what did the police do, and what were they telling you? And at that point, that day, what did they tell you? What were they saying?
Well, at first they didn't have where they could figure out her cell phone on the pings and everything. So I went to Walmart and explained to the manager there when you go back to electronics, I explained to him what was going on. And I had to tell them exactly what she's wearing. I knew where she got her coat from. So I was trying to find the coat there so we could show, have the picture of her coat. And I talked to the manager in electronics and told him exactly what was going on. So they called the company where she got her phone. So that gave the cops access to being able to find out the pings off her cell phone.
Sure.
And there was nothing. The last ping on it was within 10 minutes after she got off work.
That was the last time. Okay.
Yeah, and they told me she's like poofed. She poofed.
She just was here one second she was here, and the next second she wasn't.
Right.
That's what they
and
meant.
that's the way it's been ever since.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Now
it brought it back for the dogs because in order for them to bring in the search dogs, they have to have a spot to point at. So they did have dogs at her apartment, but she when she got off of work, she got into a car to get a ride home. So it took the guy that gave her a ride 3 weeks to come forward and say that he was the person of interest in the car.
And who was this? And who was this guy? Who was he?
Okay, well,
you don't have to say his name. I don't know if he's a suspect or not. We don't have to use his name, but maybe just tell the listeners a little bit about him, because I know that was a mystery after she disappeared, that who did pick her up.
Right. Well, the cops say that they didn't give me his name, but I wrote everything down, like I said, in different notebooks. I had the pieces, like I was like a chicken with my head cut off, and I was trying to get all the pieces. So I have a name, but I don't want to come off of that because I know one cop told me, but I can't remember what cop it was at the indefinite, you know what I mean? But the guy did come forward 3 weeks later, and he had a pass. So I guess he passed a lie-detector test. Mm-hmm. So they went ahead and let go of him.
And how did it happen that he even gave her a ride in the first place?
Probably just because when she was at the deli, she kind of blossomed. She always felt like she wasn't as good as her sister, wasn't as pretty as her sister. And working at the deli, she realized how friendly people were and how people would come in just because she was, and said, yes, she was special or whatever. Always gave them, friendly service and all that. So it's probably somebody she just had met through working at the deli. So she didn't really know the guy, but probably had served him lunch. I don't know how many times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, it took 3 weeks for him to come forward. We only had a make on the automobile that she got into.
And I bet you were and I bet you were thinking that at the time that man, this has to be the guy. Whoever picked her up has to be the guy.
Yeah.
But when he came forward 3 weeks later, I mean, what did he say? What did he say happened?
He said that she wanted him, or got the ride, but that she wanted him to let her off at this pizza place that was across the street. Well, he didn't know it was across the street from her apartment, but she said that, or he said she told him to let her off at this pizza place, and whenever he got out of line of sight, she'd go ahead and walk to her apartment. And she was kind of lazy about that kind of stuff, so she just had him drop her off right across the street from the apartment.
All right, so maybe she was trying to make it so he wouldn't know exactly where she lived. Kind of. And was that pizza place open at the time that she was dropped off? Did anybody there see her get out of his car? Do you know?
No, it's honestly on the street that comes down from like the way where her work is. It's only about 3 minutes away from her work, and it connects right in front, like the road that her apartment's on, and a connecting road that goes opposite the street there from the pizza place, and all the way down that strip to the connecting road. All the businesses had closed, so the only thing still in business is the I think there's an electric company over there, and then the fire department. So everything was closed.
Yeah, because
So
it was probably because it was New Year's Eve. Probably because it was New Year's Eve.
Well, the pizza place was closed. Like they closed down.
Oh, they
so
were out
that
of
whole
business.
strip was,
Out of business.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the whole street was kind of dark from all the bit. And there was a bar that was down the street, and it was out of business too. So all the people that would have been coming in and out of those two businesses, since they were closed down, there was nothing. The cops even tried to find out video footage from the gas stations, and the grocery store she worked at didn't have any footage either. So no, they couldn't get any footage on anybody. But I know the cops did try every place around looking for video footage.
Nothing.
Maybe seeing if she'd went in for gas or cigarettes or something.
Nothing. Did this guy ever give any reason as to why he waited all that time to come forward? He surely knew that Marina was missing. Surely knew. Any reason? Did he give any reason for that?
That was his reason. He said because she was missing, he thought that she just ran off and she would be back soon. But he said after 3 weeks, he had to come forward and let him know that he was the one that gave her a ride, but he didn't do this.
Do you know if he
scared him because she was missing?
Okay. Do you know if he ever gave her a ride home before?
No, that I don't know.
Okay. Was he given a lie detector test? Do you know?
Yes. Cops said that he got a lie detector test and passed.
Okay. And just to ask you, do you suspect he is a good suspect in Marina's disappearance, or do you think that he's just an innocent bystander? Just your feeling as her mother. What do you think?
Honestly, I think it kind of sucks that I feel like he's an innocent bystander because of the fact that the timing seemed so perfect. He picked her up, and then all of a sudden, there was no more pings. From the time he dropped her off, all of a sudden, there was no more pings on her phone. So it just seemed like he should have been the perfect suspect, but it hasn't looked that way ever since the beginning.
Okay. Thank you for being honest about that, Tressie.
Right, because I wish he was, because then there would be closure. She would be found, something would happen. She wouldn't, like your show is called Unfound. She wouldn't be unfound right now.
That's exactly right, and that's why the show is called that. Exactly. Now, something maybe, I don't know if it's a coincidence or it was something planned, but her former boyfriend, the father of her child, the father of the child, DJ, just happened to see her being picked up with this guy at work. How did that happen? Was that a coincidence? Was that planned?
No.
Did GJ talk to Marina at that point? What went on with that? Because that's a well-publicized story out there regarding Marina's disappearance as well.
Okay, me knowing DJ and the boys that he was always with, he worked at the pallet factory. So he would have been getting off of work right before Marina was. So going there was like coming down, coming not too far away where they worked. So he was trying to talk her into going to New Year's with them. And the last words that were known that Marina said was she was actually on the phone with Toby, and she said, "Oh, this DJ." That's the last words that we know that she said. Because
Okay.
DJ came up and was trying to talk her not into getting in that car with that guy, but to go with them for New Year's.
All right. So what you're saying is DJ stopped over at the deli, knowing she was getting off work, and was trying to convince her to go with him and to some other party.
Yeah.
But instead, she goes, "No, I'm going somewhere else," and got in the car with the guy that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't a coincidence. He stopped there before. He was trying to. He still, he wanted to get her back. He wanted to be back in her life.
Yeah. Yeah, and she is, of course, the mother of his child. So,
Right.
there's that connection. There is
Right.
that. They weren't just a boy and girl who dated. They actually had a child together, and so there was that bond between them. So it's not a
And they did love
coincidence.
each other.
Yeah.
They did. You could tell they loved each other.
Yeah, but they were very young, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's tough. It's tough. And how old was DJ at this point? And do you have any idea?
Honestly, I don't. I know that he was older than her. Not a lot older than her. But, I know that they were together whenever he had his 21st birthday. So, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And she couldn't go to the bar with him. When he had his 21st birthday, she was all upset and telling me how, he could be going up and cheating on her or something, but she wouldn't know. She wasn't allowed to get in the bar, so he was going to go party without her for his birthday instead of hanging out with her on his birthday.
Yes, because she was only 18 at the time.
Right.
Okay. Now, the police, when they had told you something, or you can explain to the listeners how you found this out, that when they finally did go over to her place, was her apartment unlocked and the door was open. Is that right?
Yes, it was unlocked. The door. Well, I don't think the door was open, but it was unlocked.
Okay.
And there was no mess. They said there was no mess. It didn't look like there was a struggle or anything, which puts it back at, wanting the guy that picked her up to be the one to do it, because it didn't seem like, she'd even made it in her apartment, or if she did make it in her apartment, she left with somebody she knew, you know what I mean? Because there wasn't a sign of struggle whatsoever. And the only things missing was her purse, and the cell phone she had.
Do you know, did she have to wear, when she worked at the deli, did she have to wear a uniform of some type, maybe a name tag, a shirt with a name on it, anything like that? And were those clothes found in her apartment when they went over there? Were those ever found?
No, that what they did, they didn't really have a uniform. They just had an apron that said IGA on it. She worked at IGA.
Oh, okay.
So that she had that, and she had to wear a hat or have her hair back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she wore glasses, but she didn't need glasses. She has really good eyesight, actually. But I knew what kind of glasses she had on because my dad got on to her about wearing prescription glasses. She said they make her look smarter. And Dad got on to her and said, well, at least get some that are non-prescription. So she was pretty proud of the ones she got. They were purple, like her favorite color.
So,
they weren't there.
And are you saying that none of those clothes that you believe she might have been wearing at her work at IGA that day were found in her apartment? Do you know?
Not as far as I know. And the coat that I know she was wearing, it wasn't in the apartment either. And for the longest time, actually, and I, me being so confused and like I said, I'm like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to figure it out.
Sure you are.
And
of course.
I know that she wore a cross. She never took it off. It wasn't in the apartment, so she still had it on. I know what kind of coat she had. I was with her when she got the coat. And then she had on these Nike shoes. She took them from me. So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to tell the cops exactly what kind of shoes she had on. But she took my Nikes. So I was able to tell the cops exactly what kind of shoes she had on, exactly what kind of coat, and exactly what kind of glasses she had on, and her cross. And she was wearing a pair of jeans that had the studded pockets on them.
All right.
So they weren't there either.
So
she was still wearing what she had on.
So as you said, could seem that this guy maybe dropped her off and she might have got picked up by somebody else before she even got up to her apartment, or maybe just got into her apartment and somebody showed up, given that none of her clothes were found in there that she was wearing.
Right, and this is a fact about my daughter. I call her my little tornado. So she wasn't home long enough. If she made it into her apartment, she wasn't there even long enough to change clothes or anything. Because when she comes in, she just starts taking stuff off from the front door to her bedroom. Just boom, 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 tennis shoe here, tennis shoe there. Like I said, she's my little tornado. So there wasn't, there wasn't that string of clothes proving that she'd changed clothes from work. She was still wearing what she wore from work, which, they sold different fried foods there and stuff. So I know that my daughter would have wanted to change before she would have went to the party she was going to go to. So that didn't happen.
Right. Now let's talk about that party. We've already kind of told the listeners that was going to be held by this guy Toby, who you knew for a long time. She was kind of having a thing going on with him, even though he was married, and we've already talked about how you ran into his wife later after Marina disappeared. Did the police talk to him? What did he say? And I know that you've tried to talk to him over the past 3 years, and he's avoided you. So what do you know about that party and all of that from that night regarding him?
Well, I know that obviously he knew Marina was gone because he had hit up this one girl that I know and had her trying to call Marina, which was weird to me because why wouldn't Toby call her himself? Why was he having someone else try to call? Because it was going straight to voicemail. So it's not like she was avoiding his calls or it would have went to ringtone. You know what I mean? She'd seen his call and not talked to him, but it was going straight to voicemail right from the get-go.
Huh.
After she talked to him on the phone, like I said, when she was coming out of work, she was on the phone with Toby, and her last words were, "Oh shit, it's DJ." So Toby knew right then that she didn't call him back. So a little after 6, she still hadn't called him back. So, and yes, the cops have talked to him, and he actually helped her father search. Her father's family came here for a week after she came up missing, and were searching. And then they left. So he helped them search, which at the same time that made me mad. Not that he helped them search, but why wouldn't he help me? When he knew that Marina and me were close, and she was kind of mad at her father's side of the family. Toby knew all about what happened to Landon and knew that Marina was mad at Faith and mad at her father's side of the family for helping Faith, evade the police. So it was kind of weird that he went straight to her father's side of the family and talked to him, but refused to talk to me.
Yeah, maybe it had something to do with him knowing you that whole time, and maybe he didn't want to own up to. I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to be suspicious of that or not. Maybe he just didn't want to look at you in the eye and say, "Yeah, I was having an affair with your daughter." Maybe.
Well, he'd already admitted it when we went out to eat for Chinese. I knew then that he was seeing her because it was like a lunch date. Mm-hmm. So to me, he had already come forward and said, "Yes, I'm seeing your daughter."
Okay.
Because we all went out to eat together, and Landon was with us when we went. So we met in Linton at a Chinese restaurant, and we all sat down to eat lunch. So he knew that I knew they were seeing each other. So I know that that's not the reason why he hasn't talked to me, because he, I already knew that. Like I said, it was just 3 days before.
Did he ever take a lie detector test regarding Marina's disappearance?
Not that I know of.
So the guy who drove her home took a lie detector test, but Toby was not given a lie detector test. Do you know if DJ was ever given a lie detector test going back to him?
Yes, I know for a fact DJ was.
And how did he do?
DJ had got one. Yes, he passed.
He passed.
It was DJ, and then it was DJ, Dustin, James, and Sam was the driver. There was always those 4 boys together. And then, so, me being Marina's mom, it was always those 4 guys and Marina and Landon and then me. We all hung out together a lot. So it wasn't a coincidence that, 4 guys saw Marina get in that car. If it wasn't for them seeing her get in that car, they wouldn't have known what kind of car it was that she got into.
So those 4 guys, they were actually, even though maybe DJ and Marina were on the rocks, these guys were still helpful. They came forward and say, "You know what, we did see her get in the car." And then that guy came forward and said, "Yeah, I did do it." So these guys were truthful. These 4 kids were truthful. Okay.
Yeah, and they even helped me search. When Johnny, her father's side of the family, when they were there, none of them would even talk to me. They refused to even talk to me. And so their search and our search was separate. It was completely separate. And they were mad at me, so they believe DJ did it.
They believe DJ did it. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of party was Toby having here? Was it a big part? Do you know? Was it going to be a big party,
Well,
like 20 people, or was it just 10 people, or where was it going to be?
it's
What can you tell the listeners about the party?
well, what I've been told was that he was seeing more than Marina on the side, and so I know that 10 to 20 people at least were supposed to be there.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a decent sized party,
And
and it was at his house.
do you know if he started calling Marina when she didn't show up, or was he supposed to pick her up? I mean, how was she supposed to get to this party?
She probably would have walked there because it was right down the road from. I didn't know that. Yeah, Toby led me to believe that his business and where he lived was in Linton. When in truth, later on, I found out that he lived right down the street from my daughter, and his has a motorcycle business called Demon Cycles, and it's right down the road from where Marina is too.
When you say right down the road, would you say a quarter of a mile, or you walk there in a minute, or how far would you say that is?
Okay, I'd say his apartment was just a few blocks. His business was like a mile away.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, and he helped her move into this apartment that she was living in, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also told me something else that was fairly interesting, and I just want to double check on this. Did you tell me that Toby actually had a key to Marina's apartment?
Yes, she made me pinky promise I wouldn't say anything, but I don't think she'd be mad at me breaking that pinky promise now that she's missing. Toby had a key.
Okay. And did he ever own up to that? Did you knew that before Marina disappeared?
Yes, I knew that before Marina disappeared. Like I said, she told me everything. She was always telling me everything. And I didn't realize until later on that the cops said the only thing missing was what she was wearing, her purse and her phone. But there's something else that was missing as well. That's a journal.
Yeah.
I got no journals back from her apartment. It wasn't a single one. Like, not even just little things written down in notebooks. Everything I have was stuff that where she was still here. Like, I still had some of her stuff here at the house, at Dad's house. And then where she hadn't moved all her stuff into her apartment yet. So the journal that she showed me and showed me her prediction was missing. It's missing just like she is.
It's very interesting, Tressie. So you could be led to believe, unless the police were in there and found it and it had some sort of material value to their investigation, unless they took it, somebody else must have taken it. Most likely, whoever took Marina. It's easy to think that, or what do you think?
Yes,
What do you
very
think?
easy.
What do you think?
It's very easy to think that. But I know that if the cops would have had her journal, because they said nothing else was missing. So later on when I told them, I said, there is something missing, her journal is missing. Then they didn't know anything about it. So they told me straight up that they didn't even know about a journal.
So the latest journal that Marina was keeping was gone, and it's never been seen since, and you have no idea what happened to it.
Yes, I have no idea.
And
I know she had one because she showed me that one prediction.
Right. And yes, and you had talked about how much she loved to write and everything else. Would you call this a daily journal, or would she write in it just every few days, or what are your impressions of how much daily?
Daily, and I mean a few times daily. She would do a few little things. Like I said, she had her little lazy moments about her. She carried around a notebook in her purse. And if she would have been out somewhere, like say she was out at a restaurant and something happened while she was there, she would excuse herself and go to the bathroom, and she would scribble down her feelings on, in the bathroom in her notebook. And then when she'd get home, she'd rip out the page and tuck it in her journal. So instead of rewriting it into her journal, there'd be little pages tucked here and there in her journals where she'd write something down wherever she was at. Whenever something happened is when she wrote it down.
Did you discover that journal was missing right away, or did it take you maybe a few days to figure out that it was missing?
I'm going to say I was bad on that one. It took me longer than a few days. Try 2.5 years before it even hit me.
Oh, my.
That was missing.
Oh, my. Okay.
See, honestly, I was thinking I had her stuff, so I had her journals. Well, then I was sitting there going through, and it was real hard for me emotionally to read some of the stuff that she had written down.
Of course.
And then once I went through every one of the ones that I had, I realized that the one that she had showed me, it wasn't there. So it took me 2.5 years at least before I realized that the journal she showed me the prediction in was nowhere to be found.
Do you think it's possible that did you ever know her to take her journal to work? Is it possible she took it to work
No,
with her? No.
no, she wouldn't have taken it to work. She ran to a bigger book, and so she wouldn't have taken it to work, but she would have taken her little notebook that she had in her purse. She always carried this little notebook around. So if something would have happened at work, like if her boss gave her crap, she would
Yeah.
go to the bathroom and she'd write it down. What happened?
Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is maybe she had it with her when she disappeared. Like maybe she got dropped off by this guy, was walking to her place, and somebody shows up, and the journal's on her, and so she disappears. The journal disappears with her. You're saying that's probably not the case. That's probably not what happened.
Yeah, I can't imagine her going. If she was leaving, she wouldn't have thought, "Well, I better grab my journal," because she would have wanted her journal hidden, and nobody been able to read it. So the best way to do that would be leaving it at home,
Okay.
especially since it was just her apartment. She didn't live with anybody; it was just her apartment.
Okay. So we have the guy who took her home and allegedly dropped her off, and he's passed the lie detector test. We have the father of Marina's child, DJ, who saw her get into this car, and he and his friends, seemingly very helpful in trying to find her. And then we have this Toby guy who she was supposed to go to his party that night. And of course, he was doing this without his wife's knowledge, and we've covered him a little bit. But that's not quite the rest of the story. That's not the entire story. We have a couple more very strange things and not positive things to talk about. You discovered that there is an ex-murderer living in Marina's apartment. How did you find that out? How did that occur to you?
DJ is actually the one that told me that.
Okay. Okay.
DJ, he searched with me. He even went in the sewers with me. We crawled around in the sewers looking for my daughter in case, because of the fact that there was a murderer living in her building. It was the only other person that lived in her building, which would have been just as easy for that guy to do something to Marina.
Sure.
So we searched for her, and right behind her apartment are railroad tracks. Right off to the side of her apartment is a railroad track. But going back behind and to the side, there was a sewer tunnel that went down in there. So we even crawled around in there looking in case he'd done something to her and put her body in that sewer.
Yes, and we're going to say his name. His name is Vernon Gale Briner, and he
Yeah.
lived in Marina's apartment. Any idea how long he had been living in there before she disappeared? Any idea?
No, that's another thing. I've tried to reach out to this man. I even gave one of his bosses my phone number and said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to do a radio thing. Come forward and talk to me and tell me things and let me know." Because I tried to get her, or I got on this other show, and I said straight up what somebody from his work had told me was the details of that. And you know what I mean? I don't, in my state, what they had told me about was so crazy out there that it had me even more crazy about what happened to Marina. So I gave details of which I normally wouldn't have. I'm more about factual.
Yeah.
But whenever your daughter comes up missing and everything's so confusing and you got nothing. And I usually am good at solving puzzles, and this puzzle I keep solving. I know that he doesn't live there anymore, and he still works at the same job he did work there.
Okay.
So I don't know how long he was living there. I just know that they were the only two that lived in the building.
Now, the listeners should know that Vernon Gale Briner, Briner, he murdered a 19-year-old girl way back in the 70s. He was known as the Aurora College Killer. And you should also know that he was let out of jail, and it was a huge uproar. I mean, people were outraged that this guy was put out on parole. And when he got out of jail, he went and lived in the apartment, same building as Marina. Did Marina ever mention this guy to you, just in passing? Say, hey, there's a guy that lives like in the building. Anything like that?
She just had told me that she didn't really have neighbors as far as in the apartment building. She just said this guy Butch, which is his nickname. They call him Butch. And so she just said, that was all she told me about him, was that he lived in the other apartment. Saying that nobody lived in the other two. There's like 4 apartments, and that nobody lived in the other 2. There's either 3 or 4 apartments, but nobody lived in the other ones, just her and him.
So she's alone in this apartment building with a murderer who just had gotten out of jail. Maybe
Honestly, he got released on her birthday. Not the same year, but when he got released, her birthday is July 15th, and his release date was July 15th.
Okay. Of 2014, 2013, do you remember?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I know
either. I have to look that up.
In 1976, I did get to find a newspaper article. They asked him then if he thought he would do it again when he come up for parole, and he said, "Man, I don't really get along with females." And this is stated in the newspaper of what he said. He said, "I don't get along with females. If you let me out, it's probably going to happen again." And that was in 1976.
Oh my!
So he did another, I believe it was 36 years.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
And I think he hadn't been out. He'd been out, I don't think it quite was 2 years worth by the time Marina, lived with him, or lived by him. And she didn't know that he was killer, that nobody knew.
Do you know how DJ figured that out? What did DJ do to find that out? How did he know?
We all Googled everything.
Oh, okay. So DJ Googled it and figured out who this guy was, and then he passed it along to you, and that really had to make you worry. That red flags must have been going off everywhere.
Yeah, big time. Because that would have made sense of what was running, for the fact that just a few minutes after she got off of work, she all of a sudden poofed at her apartment building. So that, the fact that the driver got out or passed his lie-detector test and came forward. And I believe that Vernon got one, and he was presumed at work at the time of Marina's disappearance.
So you're saying that the police, I'm going to guess the police also knew that he was a murderer and questioned him, and they didn't get anywhere with him, and in fact, he has an alibi that he was still at work.
Yes.
Okay.
And the landlord, when I talked to him, he said that he knew that he was a murderer, but that Butch had done his time, Vernon had done his time, and for his crime or whatever, and that he said, people should leave him alone about it.
Yeah. Well, that may be so, but you'd think that knowing this guy's history, that the landlord might have let Marina know, who was living in the same building with her as well. And it should be known, that Vernon Briner is a registered sex offender in Indiana. You can find him online, and his picture and everything else. So it's public information that the landlord should have told Marina. He really should have.
Right, them or CPS. That made me wonder about CPS. Why didn't they tell Marina? Like within 48 hours, Landon would have been going home to live with Marina there, where a sexual predator lived. Not only a sexual predator, but a murderer.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder why CPS didn't tell her, hey, just to let you know that you're not exactly in a good, place because your neighbor is a murderer and a sex offender.
Yeah.
And Marina was 18 when she went missing. Well, the college student was 19, so they were pretty much the same age.
Yep. Until proven otherwise, I think that Vernon is a decent suspect in this case, but we know that this case is a little over 3 years old now, and Vernon is still out there, a free man going to work. And although, like you said, he has moved out of his apartment since then, but you are telling the listeners that the police did look at him and question him.
Yes, they did, because of the fact that he had a past. They did look at him.
All right.
But he passed, like you said, he had an alibi for where he was.
Now, let's go back to DJ. Something that I know, at least at the time, got a lot of attention But since then, maybe it has all been explained away, but we do need to let the listeners know about this. What happened to DJ maybe about 6 weeks after Marina disappeared? What happened to him?
February 12th, DJ was with this girl, Abby. Abby told him that, or told DJ that Marina had slept with her ex-boyfriend, Michael Rogers. DJ flipped out because Michael and him were friends. So she went over to confront Michael about it at Michael's place where he lived. And so he knocked on the door and he let him in the house, and all of a sudden DJ went after Michael. Well, DJ was beating him up pretty good, and in self-defense, stabbed DJ one time. And since then, I have talked to Michael, and he actually stabbed him twice. He stabbed him one time, which would make sense in the self-defense thing, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But the fact that there was 2 stabs, I was so confused about that, I had to know why twice. Michael said that he stabbed him the first time and he kept beating him up. So he stabbed him the second time. He said that DJ's last words were, "Oh man, we better talk or call 911 on this one." The second stab was straight to the heart. DJ didn't make it.
So DJ Locker, please.
A lot of people think that DJ did it, and they want to leave it at that, and they say that the truth died with DJ. So a lot of people just want to point the finger at DJ, and they're ending it at that, saying that the truth died with DJ.
Yeah, and we're not so sure about that. And so 6 weeks after Marina disappeared, DJ was stabbed to death in a self-defense. It sounds like self-defense to me. If he goes to somebody's house and goes in there and the guy, Michael Rogers, stabs him, that sounds like self-defense to me. And DJ's confronting him over some prior relationship that Marina had. What kind of guy is Michael Rogers? Good guy. What do you know about him?
Honestly, DJ's the one that introduced me to Michael, and I know they were friends. From what I know of Michael, and a lot of people will be mad at me for saying this because he did take DJ's life, but Michael and DJ were, like I said, were friends. So he seemed like a pretty decent guy. He never showed me anything bad. But I wasn't around him a lot either, you know what I mean? It's not like me and Michael were great friends or anything. I knew him through DJ.
Okay. So DJ wasn't over there because he thought Michael Rogers did something to Marina, in essence, made her disappear. He was over there because of something that had happened, months ago, well before Marina disappeared.
Yes.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with DJ thinking that. Some people say that DJ went and died trying to find out what Marina was doing. DJ died trying to get mad about what something Marina might have done.
Now, there's another story out there that Marina might have had a disagreement with somebody on the phone the day she disappeared at work. I don't think they're talking about Toby necessarily. Maybe they are. But did she have a phone call conversation with somebody while she was at work that day that was kind of a heated conversation? Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't know anything about a conversation there. The closest one was whenever, like I told you, that the last words that she was to say was, "Oh, DJ." That was Marina was on the phone with Toby, and that was as Marina was getting in the car. There was another conversation where Marina got into it with somebody at work. Nobody has told me that since.
Okay. Now, before, I know probably the listeners thinking, well, this Vernon Briner guy seems like a pretty good suspect, but here's a little bit of a kicker, to all of this. Toby and Vernon know each other, don't they?
They're friends on Facebook.
They're friends on Facebook, which...
Yes.
And you wonder how that would be. I tried doing
my little search. I don't know. I tried doing my little search, you know what I mean, to find out if I could find any one of Marina's friends that would connect her to Butch. And when I seen Toby was his friend, that floored me.
Yeah, and you haven't had a chance to ask him about that because Toby hasn't talked to you since Marina disappeared.
Nope. He refuses to talk to me. I don't know how many messages out there. I tried hitting him up. They actually had found a body in Oklahoma where they found her naked thrown off the path of a highway in some brush, and all she had on her, she was naked with a pair of ankle socks on, with purple ankle socks with skull and crossbones on them. And I was worried about that body because there had been so many hours from the time she came up missing by the time they actually reported her missing. So, that gives you a lot of time to get out there. And me and Marina had a thing about our ankle socks. Well, the only other thing they found on the body was a belly button ring. Well, about a week before Marina came up missing, she had showed me where she bought some belly button rings and said she was going to get it done. So I tried hitting Toby up and asking him, just tell me, if you won't talk to me, at least tell me. Did she get her belly button pierced in that week, before, and didn't tell me about it? And he wouldn't respond to my questions.
And he hasn't
Which I know
responded.
now that body wasn't her.
In fact, that conversation you had with his wife at the hospital one day is a longer conversation than you've had with Toby in all that time since.
Yeah, Toby said one word to me, hi. Since my daughter came up missing, that's the only word he spoke to me. That's it. And he was coming out of the facility. He come out and held the door open for me as I was walking in, and he looked at me and said hi. And that's it.
And we have to remember, this is a guy who was so close to you at one time that when Marina was in your womb, Toby had his hands on your stomach. That's how close you two were at one time.
Yeah, it was really me and his girlfriend that were close. Yeah. But because they were together, you know what I mean, he wanted to feel my baby kick.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that's cool, because, me and Jessica, which was his former girlfriend, we were pretty close back then. So I didn't think anything of it whenever he wanted to feel my baby kick. I let him do it.
Yeah. To your knowledge, is there any reason that Toby would have wanted to do anything, Marina? I mean, I know that they had this thing going on the side. His wife doesn't know about it. And, of course, we know a lot of disappearances happen because of infidelity and things like that. But, I guess what I'm asking is, did Marina ever tell you anything that might have made you think, Toby might do something to my daughter? Was he ever violent to her? Anything like that, to your knowledge?
No, but I remember he was very possessive with his ex-girlfriend, Jessica. He was very possessive and he was super jealous and everything, so that made it suspicious to me. Why Toby wouldn't have got a hold of me that night and said, hey, where's Marina?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though he didn't have my phone number, he could have hit me at Messenger.
Sure, on Facebook, of course, like you've already established he's on them. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have hit me at Messenger and said, have you seen Marina? Because if Marina would have went anywhere, it would have been me. If she would have gotten upset or didn't want to go to the party or whatever, she would have hit me up and called me and said, hey, Mom, I changed my mind. So it would have been me that she would have wanted to leave with.
Being that Toby was having this party, and I guess we're not sure what time it was starting or anything else, has anybody vouched for Toby to say, you know what, he was at his place that entire evening, he never left my sight all that evening, around the time that Marina would have gotten off work? To your knowledge, has anybody, established an alibi for him, his wife, or anybody else?
Yeah, there's been people that have established that he was there. But one of the rumors that went around was that Marina was pregnant again, which Marina hadn't told me that she was pregnant. But the thought that she was so distracted made me get on that path of going, man, if his wife found out, she would have left him and he'd have lost he has properties and his demon cycles. So it made me wonder, was that what she was distracted about? So I tried following that lead. And I was told that he had one of his biker buddies, go deal with Marina. So I went on that lead too, you know what I mean? I went on every lead possible, every rumor.
I bet.
I went after it. And I didn't find anything out, but it don't help that Toby won't talk to me.
Of course. Now, if she was pregnant, there's only, of course, a few ways, I guess, that a woman can find out at least early in her pregnancy that she's pregnant. Maybe go to the doctor, or maybe take one of those pregnancy tests. Have you ever talked to her doctor about that? I mean, I know it's going to be some medical rules there, but that, or when you were looking in her apartment, did you ever find any pregnancy tests or anything like that?
Yes, I did. I found a pregnancy test, and I found out too, there's these one guys that have been helping me on it. They're a part of TV show,
Okay.
and they're like investigators too. So every time they're working with me, they're out of Ohio. So every time I would find this or find that, and I'd hear this or hear that, I would hit them up. And if she would, I thought, well, good, maybe if she was pregnant, if they could do a test on the pregnancy test, I found out that would prove whether it was just the one from where she got pregnant with Landon and she was saving it, or if it was a new one. But we found out that there's no way they could have found that we could tell the difference.
Oh, okay.
Because she would have been too soon. Now Marina, what I know of my daughter, if she would have taken a pregnancy test, she would have told me. So my outlook on that was if she was thinking that she was pregnant but hadn't taken the pregnancy test, she might not have told me yet. But usually that's something she would have told me. I would have thought. You know what I mean?
I think so. I think that you two were very close. Of course, she already has one child, so there's no reason to be hesitant about telling you again. Now, who the father might be an issue, but she would. You two seem very close to me.
Yes.
Right?
She was more than just my daughter. She was my best friend. I have more than one kid, but Marina and me were the ones that were so close.
Yeah.
And we told each other everything.
Yeah. Now, speaking of your children, I'm going to allow you to say as much or as little about this as you want, but there is, once again, we'll go back to her sister Faith. And you've maybe heard some disturbing rumors about that. Do you want to talk about that, or I'm just going to leave it up to you?
I have no problem talking about it because it is one of the leads that is juggled around, and Faith hasn't really helped me out very much. Okay. She wouldn't search with me. She wouldn't do nothing like that. She went to a balloon release, but she went to an Ohio balloon release. She went to a candle vigil at my church. But one of the rumors was that my daughter Faith might have sold her for drugs. So that one was very, very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that happening, but I found out that Faith was getting high on New Year's Eve. Yeah. I had a prisoner write me a letter that said that Faith had something, or Faith knew something. He said, Faith Boelter knows something! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. So he wrote me from prison. He gave me the name Justice Wright. He said that Faith would have done it. It would have been Justice Wright that did this. Now, I've talked to Justice Wright since then. He stepped forward and wanted me to talk to him. He said that he heard me and Marina were so close that I would just shoot him in the head before he even told me anything. And I said, you're wrong. I want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened. I don't want to sit there and take the life of somebody and not know what happened to my daughter still.
And what did Justice Wright have to say?
He told me he didn't do anything. He said that he didn't do anything. He said he can't tell me for sure if it was the night of New Year's Eve. That, but yeah, my daughter slept with him for some dope.
But, your daughter Faith. Daughter
yes,
Faith.
Yes, my daughter Faith. My daughter Faith slept with him for some dope. But he said he can't remember if it was New Year's Eve or the next night. And that they were actually in the process of having sex when the phone call came into Faith that her sister was missing. Now, I haven't talked to Faith to find, Faith hasn't told me whether or not, she hasn't owned up to sleeping with Justice. But now Justice told me straight up, yes, he did. He paid her to have sex with him. Paid her with dope. So Faith denies it. Here's this strange man I've never heard of before telling me, yeah, it was true. And the guy that wrote me the letter, which is weird,
yeah,
my daughter is seeing him right now. So the guy that wrote me the letter saying that Faith did it, is seeing her right now. They're dating.
Wow. Man, that's pretty convoluted. That's pretty strange.
Yeah.
Tell
me about
strange.
it.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, well, yeah, now the listeners know. Now everybody knows this now, but I just wanted to make sure we got that on the record, and that's why I said you can say about being that it's your other daughter, and who knows if it's true or not. That's why I wanted to give you an opportunity to say as much or as little as you wanted.
Right.
Do we know where Faith was on the night that
Yes.
Marina disappeared? Where was she?
My youngest son, Eric, his stepmother's house is where my daughter was hiding at. She was still on the run when Marina came up missing.
And how far is that from where Marina was living?
Just a few miles. We live in Bloomfield, which is where Marina's apartment was, where her work was. Our Faith was in Lyons, which is just a couple of little towns over. Little bitty towns, like those kind of towns you blink and you're through them.
Yes. Yes. Wow, we have a lot of different possibilities in this, Tressie, and I think that's probably, I mean, of course, the not knowing is the worst part. And, I know you've told me you've heard so many different stories over the last 3 years. It has to be difficult.
Yeah, but those three are juggling. Like lately, a lot of the rumors going around saying that Dustin, one of the guys that was in with DJ and the boys, saying that the car that she got into.
Yeah.
There's a rumor going around now about Marina getting put through a wood chipper. Like I said, it's a rumor because the cops haven't been able to find a wood chipper. So I don't understand why, if the boys are in the clear, why would, he be getting drunk at a party and be talking about it? Is it a joke to him?
Yeah.
It's sure isn't a joke to me.
No, it's not.
Because that brings it back to, these guys have helped me out. If they did have something to do with it, and I've been defending them all this time. Wow.
Yeah.
So that makes it hard.
Yeah, it does. And it's hard anyway. You don't know where your daughter is. You don't know where she is. And it could be that, she's still alive. There is, of course, that's possible. Yeah. Right.
I can't give up on hope.
No.
I don't feel that she is, though.
Well,
I don't feel that she is.
Yeah. Well, you never know, Tressie. There's that story out of Ohio. Those 3 women who were in that basement for like 10 years and they escaped.
Right.
And there's stories about, women being sex trafficked all the time who, find a way out of it and, their pimps or the sex traffickers get caught. There's all those kinds of possibilities, but, we just have to go over these suspects and everything so the listeners know. Maybe somebody knows something, maybe somebody knows one of these people. How besides Faith, of course, you have other kids. How have they held up, knowing that Marina disappeared? How have they handled it?
Well, they're sad that their sister's gone, but I have twins that are 12, and my youngest son is 10, and I have a 14-year-old. And it was a news thing on Channel 10 News where my daughter Kaisha, she's my 14-year-old, they interviewed her, and she did very well. And but she broke down too.
Yeah.
Kaisha being the older one, she broke down. Yeah. She wanted to be in Marina's room, so I let her have Marina's room for a while.
Yeah. Yes, and I know that your family's fairly close. I mean, before we began this interview, you were telling me about your dad. You and your dad are very close. Very close.
Yeah.
Very close. And how has he handled this, knowing that one of his granddaughters is missing? How has he dealt with it?
He believes that his granddaughter has been killed and buried in the woods somewhere. Because see, where we live is in the middle of the woods. So Dad feels bad that I keep searching because he knows as a hunter how many spots a person could be put at in the woods. And since where we live is so many wooded areas, he has put it in his head that she's buried somewhere in the woods and we're never going to find her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to be tough.
And I did a walk for Marina. I wanted a billboard, so whoever did this could drive by, or somebody that knows something would drive by and keep seeing her great big and beautiful up on that billboard, and maybe their guilt would get to the best of them and they'd come forward. So I did a walk when she was right at a year missing, and I walked 16 miles holding a big sign. And my dad said that he couldn't walk with me because he is elderly, but he made me wear his hunting gear so that way I would, because it was pretty cold for New Year's.
Uh-huh.
So he made me wear his gear. So I'm on the news doing that. And she is in Linton. There's a billboard up by the old dirt track, like a bike track. And she's up there.
So
And the
you
guy,
so so you have the word out around that area that Marina's missing, and people are going to know that she's missing.
oh yeah, I've made it. I've stomped my foot and made sure everybody knows. I even dyed my hair purple for a while.
And online, do you have like a Facebook page or a website or anything like that set up for her? What
Yeah.
can you tell the listeners about that?
Yes, I do. It's called Bring Marina Boelter Home. And lately I've been, okay, for different places like your show. When you have a missing child, you want to share that information, share it, because somebody that it gets shared with could be somebody that knows something, and maybe that'll be enough for them to step forward. But whenever you go on for 3 years, you come up to where you're part of 20 groups of missing people, murdered people, unfound people, cold case people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you get pregnant, you look around and everybody else is pregnant around you. So it's the same thing. When you have a missing daughter, there are missing people everywhere.
Yeah.
So here recently, I've been having trouble being on Facebook, because I get more of my support from Facebook than I have. There's a lot of people around here that care and that'll hold the keeper posters up and stuff. But as far as like public searches and stuff like that, there really wasn't, much, because of the fact she just poofed. I haven't gotten a lot of help that way. But Facebook has been one of my biggest, places for getting supporters.
Good.
So I keep her page open.
Good. Okay, so she has a Facebook page. What's it called again? Please give the listeners again one more time.
Bring Marina Boelter Home.
Bring Marina Boelter Home, and that is Boelter, Boelter.
Yes.
Any last words before we conclude this interview, Tressie?
Yes, I want to say that I got to be part of a special moment. About a month and a half before Marina went missing, she and DJ both were arguing, and I got them to stop arguing, and I told them to sit down. I said I'd had enough. Shut up and sit down. And I had them watch a video of a kid. He was an autistic kid, a blind and autistic kid named Christopher Desley, and he sings one of my favorite songs, "Open the Eyes of My Heart." So I sat them down to watch that. And me and Marina have this thing for autistic people. We think that they have all the answers if we could just figure them out. And so I knew that I could get her reeled in to watch the video by the fact that he was autistic. Now, Christopher definitely was a cocaine baby. So his aunt found him, and he has got perfect pitch. He sings. He's got the most beautiful voice. And Marina sat down to watch him, and I watched my daughter and DJ open their eyes to the Lord. So no matter where my daughter is, she's in God's hands. So I get to say that I got to see her open her eyes to the Lord. So at least before this happened, she come over to the right side of the Lord.
Okay, Tressie. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you very much. Like I said, for all the people that'll share it, everything. Maybe somebody will just finally say, okay, it's been long enough, and maybe they'll see it, and they'll just come forward and say exactly where she is. I always said, if it's another young girl or somebody, that could be in harm's way, you can hit me up. I keep my phone number public. If you want me to say it, I will.
Well, let's not give. But you're on
Facebook.
People can find you on Facebook, Tressie Palmer. You're on there. Let's just leave it at that. We don't want to start giving out phone numbers. But yes, you're on Facebook.
I've always said it. I give out my number. I give out my address. If you're a young girl that has information to lead me to her body, I would not come off of the names. The cops already know that. It would be strictly confidential. Just show me where she is so I can go get her. Okay. Let's put this to rest. Closure needs to be had.
Yes, I agree with you. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I want to continue to work with you. Even after this episode comes out, I want to continue to work with you and talk with you, Tressie. I will continue to do anything I can to help.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was my interview with Tressie Palmer, the mother of Marina Boelter. I thank her for being on the program. She and I have been talking for a while, and I'm really happy that we could finally get her and Marina's case on Unfound. The main problem with this case is that there are so many suspects. This reminds me of other unfound cases. Aaron Barnard's, April Pitzer's, Rebecca Gary's, Nikki McCown's, Helen Diamond's. All cases where there are multiple suspects who don't have a lot to do with each other. With Marina's, to reiterate, we have Vernon Gale Briner, the murderer next door, DJ, the possibly jealous and unstable ex-boyfriend, Toby, the married man and longtime friend of Marina's family, the customer, the guy who drove Marina home, and Faith, the sister with a felony record. Did I miss anyone? And the tough part is each would have his or her own reason for causing Marina to vanish. I think there are two keys in this disappearance. Do you believe Marina made it into her apartment after that quick ride home? The missing journal would lead you to believe she did. Or did it just get lost when everything was taken out of her place? Remember, Tressie didn't notice it was missing for over 2 years. That's the first key. The second key. Marina had only been in her apartment a few weeks. Is that a coincidence? More to the point, if Toby is the perpetrator, would he cause her to disappear just a few weeks after moving her in to get her closer to him? Even if Marina was pregnant. Does that make sense? My belief is her only being there a few weeks and her disappearing are not coincidental. But as with every episode, I'll leave the rest of the theorizing up to you. And that's the program. If you found it informative, please go to the app that you use to listen to Unfound and give this podcast a 5-star review. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've been listening to Unfound.